Okay, good. So as I was about to say that I'm going to have the presentation in three basic areas. One, I'll give you an introduction of what we have as policy agreements, policies, and how we approach CCS. Then I'll give you an introduction into how we see various financing schemes coming out from policies in the countries we work. Then I'll give you a presentation of a specific financing scheme we have in place for countries like Kazakhstan. So our new approach on our green economy transition, as we called it, was stated in 2021, which composed three basic pillars. The first one was the thematic areas, where we identified the key areas that we're working on. The policy engagement identified the low carbon strategies and the building capacity and the corresponding measures that we need to take in place. And the third, the most important, was Paris aligned, which means we have made a statement that by the end of this year and from 1st of January 2023, all our investments and all our activities will be Paris aligned. And therefore, this means that CCS, as a key carbon reduction lever, is a critical component to that. As part of our thematic areas, we've identified the following key areas that we have seen. And in that, we see in industrial decarbonization, in the energy systems integration, where CCS is mostly applicable. And that's where I'll focus in the next slide of this presentation. So EBRD, for those that aren't familiar with EBRD, we're a multilateral development institution. We work in countries of the Central Eastern Europe, all the way up to Mongolia, including Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, and in North Africa. And hopefully soon we'll be expanding in sub-Saharan Africa. Our three basic offerings is we provide any type of financing form, whether it's loan, equity, guarantees. We mobilize additional funds. We're the largest B lender in our country of operation, and we have specific policy targets. We provide technical assistance, and this is important because we can support companies in identifying the low carbon pathways through visibility studies, technology roadmaps, resource efficiency audits, climate risk assessments for their specific application. And we have actually executed CCS studies in various countries, such as Bulgaria, as part of the application to the NER 300 a few years ago. And then we provide additional concessional co-financing, which I'll discuss a specific program later, but this identifies specific targeted financing instruments that are needed in order to overcome barriers for certain investments and technologies that are not profitable or commercial yet, such as CCS. But why has CCS have gained so much traction lately? Because we've identified that CCS is a key lever. We've seen that for CCS to be able to reach the potential that it needs in order to may be a catalyst for us to be Paris aligned, this presents the amount of CCS that needs to be captured. As you'll see, most of the industrial sectors, most of the energy sectors there require CCS. Just to mention iron and steel, power, petrochemical, blue hydrogen, cement, and of course, direct air capture, that is what it's counted for. So basically we need about 6 gigatons per year of CCS to be captured. The amount is quite big actually. So now I'll focus a bit on the policies and the funding that we see in our country of operation that are most applicable and the most innovative. And these mostly stem from the European Union. In the European Union, as part of their Green Deal, they've actually put in place what they call the Innovation Fund, along with other funds, such as Connecting Europe, Facility, the Horizon 2020, and Recovery Next Generation. The Innovation Fund is an innovative fund targeting deployment of large-scale technologies that are needed to meet the goals of the Paris Agreement. The first application of the Innovation Fund was done last year to the EU, and the majority of the projects there submitted were CCS projects. Some of these projects I've identified here, where you can see the Porthos project in the Netherlands, Anthos in the Netherlands, Daragand in France, in Poland, etc. For what concerns the EBRD, we've actually submitted with one company a CCS project for an industrial CCS cluster in one of our countries in Bulgaria just last week. And this is a cement, agrochemical and chemical complex of avoiding about 2 million tons per year CCS in a depleted offshore field in the Black Sea. The envisaged cost of this project goes to about between 800 million to 1 billion until a final investment decision is made. And we supported all sponsors in the application process through providing our technical expertise, our financing expertise, but also providing technical assistance in executing feasibility studies that are necessary in order to be able to identify the key bottlenecks. In addition, we've provided also financing support as a letter of intent at this point until the final closing agreements are in place, and we hope we will be able to close the deal sometime next year. Now, that is a typical industrial CCS project that we are working on, and we will be continuing to working on in the future for various countries that have similar programs in place, or we will be able to set up similar programs. So for us, in the countries that we work on, the key actions that we see are needed in order to secure concrete results on CCS are in basically 4 categories. We need clarity on the vision of the CCS of the country. This is mostly embedded in their strategic vision of Paris alignment. Second, we need economics of the CCS. We basically need a carbon price. In the EU, where the Innovation Fund was set up, this was quite relevant because with the carbon price right now between 60 to 100, it has been fluctuating lately, we see that the economics stack up. But also the ETS price here was very important because the funds of the ETS were channeled back to create the Innovation Fund. We think this is important since Kazakhstan has the ETS in place and can put in place a similar scheme. EBRD can support that and in providing the necessary technical expertise on how this scheme can be set up along with our financing. The second is developing the technical and coordination challenges that are necessary, right? This is not an easy project to execute. It requires a lot of technical expertise across critical value chains that probably have not worked before. For example, a cement plant has not done any oil and pipeline and transportation, nor has an oil upstream field company has worked with cement plant. So the expertise here is required. So identifying opportunities and establishing coalitions and cooperations for executing such large-scale projects is very interesting. And we are interested in supporting these companies by setting up knowledge platforms. One critical component that we see is necessary in our concept work is public acceptance. The previous round of the EU a few years ago did not receive the public acceptance for CCS project, and that's why one of the critical factors for its non-success was the public non-acceptance of this project. As part of our Just Transition mandate, and as part of the Just Transition approaches that each country is developing, a specific public acceptance communication approach is needed to support local communities, provide the knowledge and the information to the wider stakeholders and to the society itself of the benefits of CCS and how this is a technology that's mature enough and can be deployed with the right costs and expertise in place. For what concerns EBRD as a financing program to support CCS deployment, we've established with the GCF what we call the High Impact Program for the corporate sector. These are the countries that we will be operating in. As you'll see, Kazakhstan is one key country. The main goal is to support companies in the decarbonization efforts. The program will have an impact of at least 17 low carbon strategies to be adopted and investments realized with over 17 million tons of CO2 equivalent. One of the key components that we are targeting for deployment of this is CCS. Now, if a company in Kazakhstan, which is into the manufacturing services sector, the agribusiness, the mining sector, foresees CCS to be one of the key carbon reduction technologies that they'd like to employ in their journey for carbon neutrality, we'd be happy to assist them both technically and financially. Just to highlight that this loan, this program is a high impact loan, which is a concessional loan, which means we've received funds from the GCF, the Green Climate Fund, for which up to 25, in certain cases 30% of the total project cost will be covered by the GCF on a concessional basis. This basically means that the GCF loan interest rate and the EBRD will start at the same price, but when the first covenant is achieved, which is usually a CapEx related covenant, such as installation of the capture of the CCS, then there will be an interest rate offered, which will be reduced by 25% on the GCF tranche, Then a second discount will be offered for second CapEx deployment of another 50%, reaching the floor of 1%, along with the development of a low carbon strategy and commitment of the organization to implement the full program in place. This is a typical concessional financing scheme that we've deployed and we've designed to support companies in the acceleration of high impact technologies such as CCS. And we'd be happy to listen to companies operating in Kazakhstan if they're interested in understanding more about this financing scheme, understanding more about expertise and how we can support them further. Thank you very much, and happy to answer any questions.